Welcome to Learn English with History. Today, we will take a fascinating journey through the history of ancient Egypt. This ancient civilization has left a lasting legacy on the world. Its pyramids, pharaohs, and culture are still famous today. Let's explore this incredible history together and improve our English at the same time. Chapter 1: Early Egypt. The history of ancient Egypt begins around 3100 BCE. This was over 5,000 years ago. Early Egyptians settled along the Nile River. The Nile provided water and fertile soil. This made farming possible. The people grew crops like wheat and barley. They also raised animals like cattle and sheep. The Nile was essential to their way of life. These early communities eventually formed two kingdoms. One was in the north, called Lower Egypt. The other was in the south, called Upper Egypt. Around 3100 BCE, a king named Narmer, also known as Mengs, united these two kingdoms. He became the first pharaoh of a united Egypt. This event marked the beginning of the early dynastic period. Chapter 2: The Old Kingdom. The Old Kingdom lasted from around 2686 to 2181 BCE. This period is also known as the Age of the Pyramids. Pharaohs during this time were very powerful. They were seen as gods on earth. They built huge pyramids as tombs for themselves. The most famous pyramids are at Giza. The Great Pyramid of Giza was built for Pharaoh Khufu. It is one of the seven wonders of the ancient world. The Old Kingdom was a time of prosperity and strong centralized power. The pharaohs had absolute control. They collected taxes and organized large building projects. The Egyptian government was well organized and efficient. However, the Old Kingdom eventually declined. Poor harvests, economic troubles, and internal strife weakened the pharaoh's power. This led to the First Intermediate Period, a time of chaos and division. Chapter 3: The Middle Kingdom. The Middle Kingdom began around 2050 BCE and lasted until 1710 BCE. This period is known for its stability and reunification. A pharaoh named Mentuhotep II from Thebes reunited Egypt. He restored order and centralized power. The Middle Kingdom is often seen as a golden age for its achievements in literature, art, and architecture. Pharaohs of the Middle Kingdom expanded Egypt's territory. They conquered Nubia to the south and strengthened their control over trade routes. This brought wealth and new resources to Egypt. The government was more inclusive, and officials from different regions were given important roles. However, the Middle Kingdom eventually weakened due to internal strife and invasions by foreign peoples, leading to the Second Intermediate Period. Chapter 4: The New Kingdom. The New Kingdom lasted from around 1550 to 1070 BCE. It was the most powerful period in ancient Egypt's history. The New Kingdom is known for its strong pharaohs and extensive empire. Pharaoh Ahmose I expelled the Hyksos invaders and reunited Egypt, starting the 18th dynasty. One of the most famous pharaohs of the New Kingdom was Hatshepsut. She was one of the few female pharaohs and ruled as a king. Hatshepsut expanded trade networks and built magnificent temples. Another well-known pharaoh was Akhenaten. He tried to change Egypt's religion to worship only one god, Aten. This was a radical shift from the traditional polytheistic beliefs. Akhenaten's changes were mostly reversed after his death. Tutankhamun, also known as King Tut, is another famous pharaoh. He became pharaoh at a very young age and died young. His tomb was discovered nearly intact in 1922, providing incredible insights into ancient Egyptian life and burial practices. Ramses II, also known as Ramses the Great, was one of the longest reigning pharaohs. He is known for his military campaigns and monumental building projects, such as the temples at Abu Simbel. The new kingdom eventually declined due to internal problems and external invasions. This led to the Third Intermediate Period, a time of division and foreign rule. Chapter 5: Late Period and Decline. The late period of ancient Egypt began around 664 BCE and lasted until 332 BCE. During this time, Egypt was often under foreign control. The Assyrians and Persians conquered Egypt, but native Egyptian rulers sometimes regained control. Despite the turmoil, the late period saw a revival in art and culture. Many temples were built or restored, and traditional religious practices were maintained. In 332 BCE, Alexander the Great conquered Egypt. This marked the beginning of the Hellenistic period. After Alexander's death, his general Ptolemy became the ruler of Egypt. The Ptolemaic dynasty ruled for nearly 300 years. The most famous member of this dynasty was Cleopatra VII. She was the last pharaoh of ancient Egypt and is known for her relationships with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. Cleopatra's reign ended when Egypt became a province of the Roman Empire in 30 BCE. Chapter 6: Religion and Culture. Religion was central to life in ancient Egypt. The Egyptians were polytheistic, meaning they worshipped many gods. Some of the most important gods were Ra, the sun god, Osiris, the god of the afterlife, and Isis, the goddess of motherhood and magic. Pharaohs were seen as divine and acted as intermediaries between the gods and the people. The Egyptians believed in an afterlife. They thought that life after death was a continuation of life on earth. To prepare for the afterlife, they mummified their dead. This process preserved the body for the soul's journey to the afterlife. Tombs were filled with goods, such as food, clothing, and treasures, to help the deceased in the next world. Art and architecture were also important in ancient Egyptian culture. The Egyptians built massive temples and monuments, decorated with intricate carvings and paintings. These structures often depicted gods, pharaohs, and scenes from daily life. Hieroglyphics, the writing system of ancient Egypt, were used to record religious texts, historical events, and administrative documents. Chapter 7: Society and Daily Life. Ancient Egyptian society was highly structured. At the top was the pharaoh, who was considered a god-king. Below the pharaoh were the nobles and priests, who held significant power and wealth. They were responsible for governing the land and conducting religious ceremonies. The middle class included scribes, artisans, and traders. Scribes were highly respected for their ability to read and write. Artisans created beautiful works of art, while traders exchanged goods with other cultures. The majority of the population were farmers and laborers. They worked the land, growing crops such as wheat, barley, and flax. They also tended livestock, including cattle, sheep, and goats. Farmers had to pay taxes in the form of crops to support the government and religious institutions. Despite their hard work, they were able to enjoy some leisure activities, such as festivals, music, and games. Women in ancient Egypt had more rights and freedoms compared to other ancient societies. They could own property, run businesses, and participate in legal matters. Some women even held high positions in government and religion. However, their primary role was to manage the household and raise children. Chapter 8: Achievements and Legacy. Ancient Egypt made many significant contributions to the world. Their achievements in architecture, art, and engineering are still admired today. The pyramids, temples, and monuments they built are marvels of construction and design. The Great Pyramid of Giza, in particular, remains one of the most impressive structures ever built. The Egyptians also made advances in medicine and science. They practiced surgery, dentistry, and had a good understanding of anatomy. They used natural remedies and developed treatments for various ailments. Their knowledge of astronomy allowed them to create a calendar that was very accurate for its time. Egyptian art and literature have also left a lasting legacy. Their sculptures, paintings, and carvings are renowned for their beauty and detail. Literary works, such as the Book of the Dead, provide insights into their beliefs and values. Hieroglyphics, their writing system, influenced other writing systems in the region and have been crucial in understanding ancient history. The legacy of ancient Egypt continues to captivate people around the world. Museums display their artifacts, scholars study their texts, and tourists visit their monuments. The stories of pharaohs, gods, and the wonders of the Nile continue to inspire awe and curiosity. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of ancient Egypt. From the early days along the Nile to the grand pyramids and powerful pharaohs, Egypt's history is truly remarkable. We hope you enjoyed learning about this ancient civilization and improved your English along the way. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Learn English with History for more exciting lessons. See you next time.